I want to ask you something before we get into this. When was the last time you prayed and you actually meant it? Not the before dinner prayer, not the eyes closed at the church prayer. I mean a prayer where you were fully present, fully honest, and you actually expected something to happen. Now, if you're pausing on that, you're in the right place. Because I think most of us have learned to perform our prayers instead of actually praying them. And today I want to show you what the ancient text says about it and what modern neuroscience confirms and give you a pattern that's so simple it'll feel like cheating. My name is Dave Barry, and I've spent 30 years in education, built business, served others in churches, and I've been studying the intersection of ancient wisdom and modern science for most of my adult life. So let's get into it. You see, here's what happened to me. I was probably 35, 36 years old, successful by most definitions, good career, great family, strong faith community, and I realized one morning that I had no idea the last time I prayed something I actually believed. I was going through the motions. You know, they were good motions, church approved motions, but they were still motions. And I could figure out why my faith felt like thin, like something had leaked out of it. And so I started asking questions. I started reading the research, the theology, and the history. And what I found was that I had been doing something so natural it felt invisible. I had been performing my prayers. I wasn't lying. I wasn't being fake exactly. I was just managing my presentation, saying things that seemed appropriate, keeping the ugly stuff off the table. And I think most of us do this because we've been trained to. Here's what the research says. A psychologist named James Pennebaker has spent his career studying what happens when people express difficult emotions honestly, in writing, in conversation, and in therapy. And the results are remarkable. People who express difficult emotions honestly, not just feel them, but actually articulate them, show measurable lower cortisol levels, stronger immune function, and higher resilience under stress. You see, honesty isn't just spiritual healthy, it's biological healthy. Now let's flip that. When we suppress, when we manage what we're saying, when we perform our presentation, when we stay what Pennebaker calls self-protective cognition, we're burning mental energy on managing our image instead of processing our reality. Now in prayer terms, that means you're too busy managing what you look like to actually receive anything. You see, the performance blocks the presence. So what did David know? Well, here's the thing. This isn't new. If you open Psalms to chapter 22, the first verse, it says, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me, so far from my cries of anguish? Now, David, described as scripture as a man after God's own heart, starts a prayer with abandonment, with accusation, with raw, unfiltered pain. He doesn't clean it up. He doesn't add a theological disclaimer. He doesn't say, I know this isn't technically correct, but he just says what's true. And then, across the same psalm, something shifts. He moves from lament to praise, from accusation to trust. Not because the circumstance changed, because he was honest enough to go somewhere. Now, you can't move through what you won't look at. Now, the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in human history, wrote his meditations as a private journal. Not for publication, not for legacy, just to stay honest with himself. He practiced proseche, the Greek word for self-attention, knowing what you're carrying before you walk into a situation. That's not self-obsession, that's self-awareness. And it's the same the Psalms are asking us to make. Know what you're actually feeling and bring that into the room. Start there. So here's the pattern. Here's what I've landed on after years of experimenting with this, a 4-part structure that I use most mornings. No theological training required. What I feel. Just name it. Anxious, grateful, numb, confused. One word counts. What I fear. What's the thing underneath the thing? What are you actually worried about today? What I need, not what you think you're supposed to ask for. What do you actually need right now? And what I trust. Anchor yourself to something true, a scripture, a past moment of provision, a simple conviction, something you believe in even if you don't feel it. Those 4 sentences, that's it. Some mornings it takes 30 seconds. Some mornings I'm still in the third sentence 20 minutes later. But every single time I show up, and showing up consistently, honestly, and imperfectly is what compounding grace looks like. So here's what Psalm 46:10 is actually saying. Be still and know that I am God. We've turned this into a nice wall print, a bumper sticker, a font of choice on a Pinterest board. But the Hebrew context is intense. The verse comes right after the earth gives way, mountains fall into the sea, nations are in uproar. Be still in the middle of all that. It's not a passive command, it's an act of will. It's choosing in the middle of chaos to stop performing and start trusting. Not because the chaos stopped, but because you know who's in it with you. And that's the prayer God's been waiting for. Not your best one, your most honest one. So here's my challenge for you this week. Pick one morning, just one. And before you check your phone, before you plan your day, before you do anything, say 4 sentences out loud. What I feel, what I fear, what I need, what I trust. Don't perform it. Don't clean it up. Don't wait until it sounds good. Just say what's true and see what happens in the middle of the silence. Because I think you'll find what I found, that God was never waiting for your best presentation. He's been waiting for you. Now, if this landed for you today, I'd love for you to subscribe, because I put out content every week on faith, leadership, and learning to live a better life. And if you want to go deeper on any of this, ancient wisdom, neuroscience, and the intersection of the two, head on over to davidberry.net, and there's more there for you. So thank you for spending time with me today, and I'll see you next week.